We rush, and I'm not judging anyone. I'm not chiding anyone for that. This is our conditioning. We rush from problem identification to problem solution. Boom, let's go. And so if we just take that extra moment and say, well, how good could that thing get?
Hey, everybody. My name is Dr. Kristen Donnelly, and I am one of the good doctors of Abbey Research. At Abbey Research, we believe that curiosity can change the world because it's the only thing that actually ever has. Humanity has moved forward by people saying, what if this could be different? What's over that mountain? What if this isn't working? What if I want something new? Well, I wonder what this tastes like. So we love conversations that encourage curiosity. Really, that's what we do around here. And this series is in service of that. It's called Welcome to My World. And I have the unbelievable privilege of chatting to folks from all over the place who are different than me, which is literally every person, about something that they know that if we knew about it, our lives would be richer. We can see the world through their eyes for a couple minutes and ask, what if I thought like this? What if I believed what they're saying? What if I did what they're suggesting? And see if our life can get wider. My guest today is no exception to that rule. Kelly Stewart is one of my favorite humans and a friend that I have not seen in far too long. So I'm delighted to be able to have her here on the show. She runs something called The Positive Business, and we're going to talk about that a lot. Her main question is, what if you could? So obviously we are in significant alignment here. She facilitates strategic conversations around aligning actions and outcomes and imagination, honestly, and what does that all look like? The other piece of this is that she and another incredible woman run a podcast called Doing Good Business that I've had the privilege of being on. And I want to talk a little bit about that and what does it mean to do good business, not just good profit business. Those of you who are fans of our channel know that I talk about that all the time. In fact, I have a TEDx talk on that very topic. So Kelly and I am sure are going to have a great conversation, and I will do my best not to talk over her a whole heck of a lot. Kelly, thank you so much for joining me.
Kristen, thank you for having me here. I am deliriously excited. As soon as I heard what your show was about and the curiosity, you could just feel the puzzle pieces aligning there and having it all come together. So we're swimming in the same pond, and I will try not to make it sound like a mutual admiration society, but clearly we share some perspectives that I would love to, talk with you about.
Absolutely. So let's dive right in. What is doing good business?
Okay. Doing good business is about doing financially well while doing good in the world. Right. Okay. And so it really is about authentically having a genuine desire to create real value for others.
Okay.
We use stakeholders, shareholders, right? So we've heard about stakeholder capitalism. And while people have a really good sense of what a shareholder is, someone who has a financial stake in the company, there are other stakeholders. There are your employees who also have a stake in your company's success. There are partners and suppliers without whom their business does not do as well. So they have a stake in your success. There are your customers who are hoping you're going to help them realize their goals in some way, and they have a stake in your success. So the more that you can do good business inside your organization and think about those other stakeholders, and of course your shareholders, because you need investment in your company, but they shouldn't be the only people that you're looking to improve their lives, create real value for. So real value, there's the financial value and there's the emotional value that comes in with purpose and transparency and trust and all of those good things I am sure you have talked about.
We talk about it at Abbey as holistic wealth. So like expanding the idea of, so our mission statement is impact lives and create wealth. And we view wealth as a multi-dimensional concept. And my dad has said my whole life that the narrowing of the concept of wealth to money, the narrowing of the idea of the economy to money has been one of the detrimental things that shareholder capitalism has done, is that we don't understand the breadth of what wealth truly is. And yes, like we all need to eat, we got to keep the lights on, and we have bills to pay, et cetera, et cetera. But we don't know how to talk about money.
Exactly. And there's a fear, right? There's a lack that's associated with that. If I don't have enough money, and, we say this on the podcast, that doing good business is actually profitable. It's possible, and it is packed with opportunity. It's about, where do you look for that? To your point, curiosity. What questions are you asking to guide yourself there as a leader? And whether that's the leader of the organization, team, division, leader of yourself, what are you doing to guide yourself there? And how can you help bring the whole organization there and that ecosystem, all those stakeholders, in ways that feel like natural next steps for them, right? And not jolting them out of their comfort zone, but the stretch goal, hey, we can do this, right?
Yeah. And you bring up fear and that lack mindset. I think, it's so hard to have conversations about business that don't sound like they're a Simon Sinek book. But like when I think about as I observe the world, we all are afraid. And I think when folks ask me about like, what has changed and have we ever been here before? And isn't this terrible? I'm like, right. The world has been this terrible before, and it will continue to be this terrible. The difference is that we have fear machines that we carry around with us that tell us what to be afraid of, how afraid to be about it. They create panic because the innate one of the strongest human motivators is fear.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, and the world is capitalizing it, I think, on a different way than it has before. That's what it feels so terrible, is that we carry fear machines in our pockets. But business owners have carried fear machines forever, and they call it their P&L.
Yes.
And if they have a lack mindset, then they can't innovate. They can't do all these other things that, in terms of global economics, we know is actually what makes something a first world country. I hate that phrase, but what makes them is a production on global innovation, not a global market. So all of that rant is back to this first question that you asked, which is, what if you could? And it sounds to me like that is what is missing, and like that is antithetical to a lack mindset.
It is.
You can't have a lack mindset and ask that question. So how do you move people?
Right. Excellent question. And so you're absolutely right. As we say, you have to be turning a profit in business to be able to do good in the world, right? Well, you have to survive first in order to thrive. So the fear role is there. It's purposeful. It's needed, right? And it just shouldn't occupy, in this person's opinion, it should not occupy all of our thinking. It should not guide all of our actions. And the same is true with this identification of problems. How many times have you heard someone, well, as long as you can identify their pain points, right? Well, yes, that's part of it.
Yeah.
And what about their aspirations? What about where they want to go in a proactive and positive, not toxic positive, because we don't ignore the negative, but, in a proactive and positive way to create real value for others? And I am heartbroken, I don't think is too strong of a word, because I ask people to tell me, what do you want to do? And the majority of the time, I won't even assign a percentage to it, but the majority of the time, I hear what they don't want. I hear the challenges. I hear the frustrations. And that's okay, because it's a starting point, right? We know this as individuals. When you know what you do want, it's the first step to knowing when you know what you don't want, it's the first step to knowing what you do want. But what I find is, when I ask them, so what's the opposite of that? What is the thing you do want? There's the pause. It takes a minute, because we're so good. We have been taught to think critically, again, needed, helpful, should not occupy all of it. We've been rewarded for thinking critically. Wonderful. And we need to make a little bit of room on the stage for the constructive thinking, right? For the, how do we build upon what's already working? The appreciative thinking, what is going right around here? So those are some of the first questions in what if you could, achieve that positive opposite? Well, first we have to figure out what the positive opposite is, right? So how many times do you talk to somebody, well, I want to do this, but you know what? We just don't have the resources for it. Okay, what if you had all the resources you needed for this project? What would that look like? Would you have grassroots efforts? Would there be partners you could work with? Would there be technology that would help you cut down on some of the costs that you need to do this project? Right. So that's the first shift in thinking that takes us from focusing on what we can't do to naming and flipping that to what we do want, and then starting to take some first steps. And we're now framing out a solution. And I think that that's really critical in the curiosity aspect of what you're talking about too, is just imagining, what if we could have that thing, right? So what would it look like? And then how do we get there? But even before how do we get there, which is what everybody goes to, and that's why I said it that way, I inject another question. How good could it get? How good could it get? And that to me is the imagination aspect of it, right? We rush, and I'm not judging anyone. I'm not chiding anyone for that. This is our conditioning. We rush from problem identification to problem solution. Boom, let's go. And so if we just take that extra moment and say, well, how good could that thing get, right? So it happens. It happens for companies all over the time. We just don't, to your point, we don't hear about that as much. So when we ask how good it can get and we think about those things, then the next step is to say, when have we done these things well in the past? Or where are the stories that will inform our strategy? Who else has done something that we've wanted to do? When have we been a part of something, I don't know, 3 or 4 careers ago that worked really well? Because there are best practices in that, right? In those conversations, you find out, boy, somebody's got strengths we didn't know. We didn't know we had 3 people who love to do data visualization here. Funny, as it turns out, we're going to need a little bit of that for this project, but we never asked before, right? We never heard the story about when they feel they're at their best, or something that they love to do that was really helpful in a project in a prior company or a prior division, right? So those are the types of things that we just kind of pull it apart. Hey, what's in here? Because we are really carrying a lot of what we need for success. We just don't talk about that as much.
So why do you do this work? What got you here?
Well, a couple of things. What I think got me here was I found some frameworks and tools to use that I have pursued and become certified in that really kind of validated for me that yes, there is, I won't even say another way to do this. And that's been me my whole career. And I've been told, well, Kelly, we're only in the business to make money. Well, Kelly, that's just not the way we do it. And I was like, I think there's another way to do this, right? I knew it was a mindset approach, and I knew that I was in the minority at that space and in that space and time. So I found some tools and frameworks that really for me was my, this is what I've been waiting for. And then I had become, and I think this is when you and I met, I became very interested in certified B Corps, and I wanted to help companies become certified. And I found in my many conversations with people that although they were interested and could see the overarching value, it wasn't necessarily something for them. So if I couldn't get them there, but these are good people running good companies, right? What would be the first step? Because clearly I had skipped over that. And I think for me, it was understanding the natural next step for them was shifting, or it's shifting only to add, right? Not shifting to leave behind your good, needed, critical thinking, but to add this appreciative thinking to what's going well, what have we done well in the past, what are the things that the real value we want to create for all of our stakeholders. And that was really when I started to understand that I could help people add this to their toolkit, add this type of appreciation, add curiosity, give them permission to be imaginative in business. What? And not in a way that exploits the loophole, right? Because that happens, right? But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about how can you create real value for others? And sure, let's pepper in there some not so lovely career experiences of my own, which just, kind of gave me, well, it's all good, right? But it gave me the experience to say, yes, I've been there, and here's the alternative.
Yeah. We've done it this way.
Yes.
And it's not working. So let's try a new way. Yeah.
Exactly.
The next thing I'm curious about is since you've shifted from the B Corp focus onto this kind of thing, what has surprised you the most about this work?
Excellent question. What has surprised me the most is how positively impacted people are when I ask these questions. Because I can't tell you how many times I have heard, either it was remarked to me or the way I work with people, they work in pairs and you can hear the paired conversation. Oh, no one's ever asked me that before. Right. And I'm like, oh, wait, no, we're sitting on a treasure chest of information and practices and experiences and knowledge, and we haven't asked about them. So that really surprised me that it was happening at that scale. And what has surprised, and I will add delighted me, is that almost every single time you can almost physically see light bulbs going off on people, and you can see them, that like their motivation is activated, the ideas are on, and it's like, yes, we could do that. And I'm like, yes, because I inherently believe that people are good and want to feel valued, and they want to make contributions in ways that play to their strengths. And I believe there are a lot of good businesses out there. Again, I'll use your thing. Your Fair Machine doesn't report that. And so I think that to kind of illuminate where they can find answers on their own, which is essentially what I'm doing after I facilitate some of these, it just becomes a mindset for people to say, okay, when have we done this in the past really well? What are we proud of over the last year and a half? If we were doing a video highlighting what we're going to accomplish over the next 3 years, what do we want on that we're currently doing? And what do we want on to add to that, right? So these are the things that help people step away from that kind of binary right or wrong response, right? And really let their imaginations run wild with how good it could get.
I love this. There's so many thoughts as you were talking, but one of the things that occurred to me is the generational research that we do at Abbey Research. And we work a lot with Gen Z as part of our Community Research Institute at Charleston Southern University. And one of the markers of both millennials and Gen Z over previous generations is a strong need to matter. And like not just to themselves or to their families, but a need to matter in a global conversation, right? And what this kind of looks like. And so while there are definitely people that still, and huge members of the generations want to still go to a job 9 to 5 and go home, then they find something else to make them, they find their matter. As people make meaning all the time. Right. And these two generations, except, in the past, you can make meaning being a T-ball coach or whatever. Right. And now everybody wants to. I didn't promise to not interrupt you, but it reminds me of those old bumper stickers, like a bad day at fishing is better than a good day at work. A good day at work. That always kind of hurt me back then too. Like I was glad people found something happy to do, but I was like, could you find that at work too? So this is the generational push now, is how do we make meaning through our vocation, as well as make meaning through our vacation. And like, what do we kind of do with that? And my students are unbelievably curious about how to do that. And I think, and like when I was a college kid, I was constantly curious. And I feel like my kind of late 20s, as I was trying to establish myself and do all the things that professionals are supposed to do. Yes. Is where my curiosity kept getting shaved off. Right. And I got told not to ask questions. And I got told not to be nosy. And I got told not to be bossy. And I got told not to do all these other things that now that I'm in my 30s and I'm knocking on 40s, I'm like, what someone just should have done is show me how to ask deeper questions. Yes. Not I say yes because I'm in the same camp. Yes. Ask better questions. And I had the incredible privilege of doing a lot of graduate work, which like graduate work's entirely about questions. And I had this one professor who very famously never would tell us what he believed about anything. And we turned his last name into a verb because if you turned a question back on somebody, you just got strooped. Because it was so, I mean, now he has told us and he's written a bunch of books and but when I was there, famously, Stroop would not tell you what he thought about something in class. And that led me to ask deeper questions. And that has been the difference in my life. And I think now in our business is like, I can look at the P&L now that I co-own the show with my brother and say, okay, these numbers are all cool. And I can look at just that bottom line, which I think a lot of people do, and say, okay, we had a good month. Or I can take 30 extra seconds and read up the line and look at our product breakdowns and say, why is that number that?
Right.
What happened? And I can go to the people and ask what happened and what's going on and what's happening. Right. Instead of what's wrong. Why did I lose money? No.
Exactly.
Tell me more about what's going on
about this so far. Right. And that's a way to invite people into conversation, because fear-based, right? They want to survive. They want to keep their jobs. So that's not the point of leadership, is to say, you are right. You are wrong. You are right. It's really to find out what's the data, right? To find the data that will help us move forward. And people who do good business, as I know your company does, people who do good business, they have that genuine desire to lead a team, right? Yeah. They are altruistically thinking about others, altruistically, genuinely, however you want to put it. It's not a market-driven initiative for them. No. It comes from inside.
Yeah. And I think, like, getting back to the question I asked you, like, how do you move people? I think one of the things that those of us who are in this kind of business need to remember is that you can only move people so far.
Yes.
And like, they have to want to be moved.
Right.
And so we have to just accept that this is always an evolving thing. I wanted to throw that out there. Well, I am mindful of our time.
Yes.
And I want to give you an opportunity to say, if you'd like to offer any closing remarks to our viewers before we say goodbye for now.
Yes, I would. Thank you very much. So when you're thinking about what you could do, just try to remember some of these questions. What could we do? What would that look like? And when you're thinking, what would that look like? It's really helpful to recall, when have you had a peak experience in the past, right? So that's how you get to your strengths, because it's hard sometimes to identify strengths, even organizational strengths, right? But when have we done something really well in the past, and what can we use to take that forward? That helps to move people. If you're asking them to go somewhere new, if we can take something good, I call it a relic. If we can take something good from the past and bring it with us, we feel a little bit more confident moving forward. How good could it get? And what will it look like when we're succeeding? So those are just kind of some 4 basic questions to get people started thinking in a new way.
I love it. What a great summation. So friends, if you liked this conversation and these questions, please hit the thumbs up on the video, because the algorithm likes it, which means it'll then go to more people and more people can learn to ask these questions. And that's why we're here. If you enjoyed the vibe, please subscribe to the channel, because I have these kind of conversations all the time. If you'd like to get in touch with Kelly, all of her contact information is going to be below. Cannot recommend her and Lara's podcast highly enough. Definitely look up Doing Good Business wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, my name is Dr. Kristen Donnelly. My guest has been Kelly Stewart. This is the series Welcome to My World, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.